But if Mexico doesn't win the Gold Cup, and I will say that they should win the Gold Cup because the U.S. is bringing their B team, right? Canada, sure, they're decent, but like Mexico should beat them. And if Mexico doesn't, or even advance to the final, then I think you just blow everything up.
Andre, you just mentioned a lot of a shift in power in the dynamic of CONCACAF. I would say not even just with the results. You're even seeing Mexican-born players or Mexican-American players choosing the United States over Mexico. And it speaks more about the federation, in my opinion, than about what the players are doing on the pitch or the leadership that they have in place, but we'll talk about it. With that said, the news coming in this past week, shortly after Berhalter was hired, Diego Cocca being fired, being sacked after a very quick stint as the manager, almost 7 months, about 6.5 months. He coached 5 matches. I don't know, 5 official matches. I don't know what they were hoping for, bro, with Cocca. It almost seems like it was a Band-Aid that was waiting to be ripped off. Like I just don't know what they were ultimately hoping for, and I don't know where they go from here. So I don't know, bro. You're the resident L3 fan, bro. After all this shit your federation's put us through, what is that? I mean, fuck. Where does Mexico go from here?
Dude, that's a great fucking question. The first take that I'll take on this is my view from a fan standpoint, and then I'll be a little bit more objective when it comes to like where we go as a federation, as a country, like speaking of fans too, like as a system. But as a fan, number one, it was so like disheartening, but also like somewhat concerning, but mainly just embarrassing the way that we played against the US. And not only the players, but also the fans, the way that we behaved, the way that the game ended, just like, know how to lose. Like that's the one thing that I've always said as a player myself. Sometimes you do get in the heat of the moment, and that's part of the game, right? You're going to show passion, and Mexico's a fucking passionate team. I think one of my favorite quotes that came out of the whole thing was who's that new guy from Arsenal that plays on the team, the striker, number 9? Balogun.
Oh yeah, Balogun.
Yeah. So they asked him like, "Hey, what do you think of the game?" And he literally quoted, and he somebody on the tweets below that said like I don't think he wanted to say this, but he said it out loud. But basically, because it was his first game against Mexico, and all the boys in the locker room were like, "You're not ready for this game," and he's like, "Oh, dude, I play in Europe, it's fine." And at the end of the game, he's like, "I was not fucking ready for that intensity," and it's just like it just shows you that CONCACAF is a different beast, let alone Mexico, US. So that is kind of where I'm at, especially after the World Cup. I think a lot of us had hope. We were so close to, making it through against Saudi Arabia to qualifying for the next round and all that kind of shit. But that's how Mexico has always been. You always like throw up a prayer. You're always like, maybe today's the day. It's like, we can't keep winning like that. Like it has to be consistent. So in terms of the federation, where we go from here, I think the Coca signing made sense because, to your point, it was kind of like a stopgap. It was like, okay, we're over Tata Martino. Everybody fucking hates him. Clearly the results weren't there. Let's move on. A lot of people in the media and obviously on Twitter were like, we can't hire another non-Mexico born manager. And what do? We fucking hire another Argentinian.
Yeah. Well, why is that? Like after Tata, like you would think maybe we stay clear of any and all
away
South
from
American
that shit.
coaches. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think the Coca signing made sense in that moment because he had just come off the back of the back-to-back titles that he won with Atlas, right? Atlas hadn't won since 1951, 1952. So it'd been a long, long time. So he had that proven track record. Now, Atlas had a lot of foreign players that were kind of the core of that team. But that being said, he was kind of the guy that was, like sexy in terms of what you were mentioning earlier, like the guy that was just popular in the news. He was a little bit less pragmatic than Tata Martino. He's a little bit more creative, but he'd never done it at the national level. Like he did it with Atlas. Cool. He did it with America for 6 months. Cool. Like, is he the actual guy for the future? I think it was exactly what I was mentioning at the beginning of the show. Mexico wanted to hire somebody to basically quiet that part of the crowd that was like, get that out. So that's what they did. They're like, fuck it. We're going to get the new guy. We're going to get somebody who will say yes because they paid him a fuck ton of money. And then we'll go from there. Probably banking on a good performance in the Nations League and a good performance in the Gold Cup. Like that was probably going to be his measuring stick. and then we go and get battered against fucking the US. Even in the friendly matches leading up to it, I don't know if you watched any of those
I did.
recently. Yeah, but like losing to Cameroon 1-0, then tying it 1-1, losing 2-1, and then tying it 2-2 at the last minute. It's like, come on, man. Like, I'm not talking shit about Cameroon. Like, they're a solid team, but like we beat them in the World Cup recently in 2014. Like, it's a team that we should handle. I think the last thing I'll say about Coca is my biggest issue was he used 2 different 11s in those, preparation matches, and none of those players played together when they played against the US. How do you expect players, regardless of their caliber, regardless if they play in Europe, regardless if they play in a top club in Liga MX, to come in as an 11 and play against a team that's been meshing for years, like the United States? That was the biggest issue. That was his debacle right there. The fact that he just expected his little team to work out of nowhere and then, work its magic and beat the US. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The other thing too is, in terms of talent, you mentioned a pretty important topic, which is the U.S. is exporting a shit ton of players right now, and they're exporting them at a rapid pace, and they're also doing it when they're young. They're not waiting until they're developed in the MLS and they're 23, 24, 25. That's too late. Like, we're seeing a lot of young players go to Europe, at a pretty early stage. Mexico's not doing that. I need to look at the numbers, but I'm pretty sure that the US has 5x, maybe even 6x the amount of players playing abroad than Mexico does. And so when you look at that talent pool coming up, we don't have a leader. We don't have a Rafa Marquez. We don't have a Guardado. Those are probably the last 2 guys that I can think of that have shown some sort of like, hey, I'm a leader, and some of the shit that goes on behind the scenes is not going to happen under my reign. We don't see that anymore. Memo Ochoa, sure, he's been around for a while though, but he's on his way out. After that, who do you look to? You can't look at Alexis Vega. He's hurt. He can't even fucking play. Who else? Santi Jimenez, too young. Lainez barely plays. Hector Moreno, you know what I mean? So those guys, for example, Cesar Montes. A lot of people were talking about Cesar Montes as being kind of the next, Hector Moreno. He's going to wear the captain's armband. And then he does the shit against the U.S. where he, kicked whoever it was from the back.
It was Balogun.
And he started that fight right after that. I'm like, I don't want that guy to be my captain. I don't want somebody to get pissed off when we're losing 3-0 and then
he does play some of the highest grade football in terms of
sure.
plays for Espanyol in Barcelona.
Quality player.
They just got relegated. I mean, it is what it is. I still think he'll probably either end up. I don't know if he'll move this summer because he's only 6 months there, but he'll probably move in the January window. If not next season, Beard Club. And he's a big, strong defender. Yep. I think someone like him could be a leader. But then you're right, bro. Like to react like a child in the moment and not even go for the ball, just swing at somebody's leg like that, bro. It's just automatically you're like, okay, that's not the guy.
Yeah. So that's the last point that I was trying to make of this whole like Coca issue. Now, when you look ahead and you ask me, where do we go from here? That's a question that's so hard to answer right now because they could take it any which way, knowing the Mexican national team. They have a fuck ton of money. I mean, we've taken it the Sven-Goran Eriksson route. Right? We've taken it, which is just such a fucking random appointment.
It's a random name.
But they have money, is my point. We stole Tata Martino from the US in those, when he was leaving Atlanta United. Great. We have more money. So when it comes to money, they're not holding back. I just don't think that we need to go after, Ancelotti, Zidane, or whatever, a big name like that. I think we go homegrown. I think we go Rafa Marquez. I think we go Jimmy Lozano has been really good historically for the youth national team. So I'm glad that he's at least an interim manager now. That's towards the right direction. But I think we go with a former player that has enough, experience, who is obviously, capable of managing the team, but also managing the locker room. Because there is a lot of that drama and a lot of that diva complex in the Mexican national team. Another guy that's been, his name's been thrown around and I actually really like it is the Toluca manager, Nacho Ambriz. Ambriz was a player. He's, proven track record. Toluca made it to the final last season. They made it to the semis this season. He's built a pretty strong core at Toluca with players that are no names, right? And so the fact that he's able to do that in a smaller team leads me to believe that he could be the guy. So there are names out there, but I think we stay homegrown. Now, it's going to be very interesting where we go from here, meaning this summer. Right? Like we already shut the bet against the US Nations League. Let's forget about it. But if Mexico doesn't win the Gold Cup, and I will say that they should win the Gold Cup because the US is bringing their B team, right? Canada, sure, they're decent, but like Mexico should beat them. And if Mexico doesn't, or even advance to the final, then I think you just blow everything up. I think that's what we need to do. We need to blow everything up from the top down. Federation, sponsors, the whole fucking thing needs to like get a clean sweep. And honestly, the last thing I'll say is there's a reason why Rafa Marquez hasn't chosen to come back to coach the Mexican national team, or even like thrown his name out there, because he knows all the bullshit that has been going on for decades, right?
Yeah.
That guy's been on the national team for 20 years. He's seen it all. He's seen the Chicharitos of the world, the Velas of the world, the Giovanni Dos Santos of the world. There's a reason why they don't get called up, but there's a lot of shit that goes behind the scenes that doesn't get talked about, and I know Marquez knows it.
Yeah, because he'd rather coach young dudes or teenagers at Barca Athletic,
No drama.
right? And no drama. It's like, bro, I get to do what I want.
Mhm.
They listen to me. I don't have to manage. I don't have to deal with the federation hovering over my back, helping or trying to help me make decisions. But I know what I'm doing. All of that, bro. But he does also know what it means to not just represent Mexico. That's one thing. But very few have done it longer than he did in his career. And on top of that, bro, he knows what it means to lead that nation in major tournaments. I think that a lot has to be said for someone like Rafa. Obviously being a Barca fan, I'm a massive fan, and Mexican, of course. But I think he's learned how to manage a little bit. He's not someone that I would have brought in until he had a little more experience coaching, and he still may need more. Who knows? But like you mentioned, bro, Jimmy Lozano, I haven't followed him as closely. I know some of the stuff he's done with the youth national team. I think you need someone, if it's not him, someone with his profile. Because someone, if you're going to blow it up, bro, I would do it now. Like if Gold Cup doesn't go well, blow it up and do it.
We got time.
with young talent, bro. Young talent that don't have egos, that are willing to not learn, because you don't learn too much at the national team level.
We need somebody
that are willing
hungry,
to
dude.
work. Yes, work to win. And that's the big thing right now for Mexico, bro, is I think in all honesty, man, going into the game against the United States, I think they were not as locked in mentally
they were not
as
prepared.
the U.S. Yeah,
you could tell. You could tell.
And that's it. I don't think, like, if you put both teams when they're both on a good run of form up against each other, I don't know who actually. I mean, United States should win. U.S. men's national team technically has a better team on paper, but with that said, like, Mexico's team isn't bad when you think about some of the selections. Now, I will say this: Coca's selections, some of them didn't make sense.
Yep. How do you not start Santi Jimenez?
I don't know. And on top of that, look, man, I don't know how you feel about this. To me, someone like Antuna is just okay. Like, he's not for someone who gets that many starts. He's almost like a clear cut, starting on the wing in every 11. To me, because he started in the third place match too against Panama. I'm not that impressed. I mean, I remember the one video that was circulating on Twitter after the game was that attempted chest trap where he tried to chest it and it went right out of bounds because it deflected off his chest for like 10 yards, like his chest is made out of steel or something. It was a horrible first touch. Like, and granted, it's not like he's like that every game or even every play of every game.
But he can't be your top choice in the wing.
No, Mexico has to have more talent. There's no way that Antuna is the best solution as far as our attacking goes. Just like Senti isn't in there when we all know he's the best striker that we have right now.
Yeah, I mean, and I don't want to hear the excuse of, well, Tecatito hasn't played in a while. He's coming back from that injury. Chucky Lozano, obviously, he played a lot for Napoli this year, so he's tired. Long season. He's not going to fucking play. Alexis Vega got hurt during training, who I think he would have started over him. Cordova, who played for Tigres, they won the championship. He had a great season, by the way. It was like a bounce back season that nobody saw. He was also hurt, so he only came in, I think, in like the 65th or 70th minute. I mean, I don't want to hear those excuses. To your point, Mexico has enough talent out there to fucking field an 11 that will be scary, that will be hungry, and that will want to win. That's what it came down to. That U.S. national team is better on paper, but I've seen Mexico teams that are worse come out hungrier against a team like that because they know it's a fucking rivalry match. It doesn't matter if you're better or worse. You have to want to win that game. And so that was a difference that day. It was the mental aspect of it. And then, of course, like, we had chances. It's not like we didn't generate enough, right? Like, there were a couple times where I'm like, oh shit, like, we could sneak a goal in here. Maybe we could take
Matt Turner had a fucking
Turner
game,
had a game.
bro. Yeah.
Turner had a fucking game. So we're not far from it, but I think, moving forward, 2024 Copa America, massive test. And if we shit the bed in the Gold Cup and we don't win it, or at least make the final, this is the time when you blow everything up ahead of the World Cup, because we don't have to fucking qualify. We don't have qualifiers to worry about. It's all going to be friendlies. It's all going to be, we're going to play against some bigger teams, but like, It doesn't matter because we're already in. I think past this World Cup, then it's problematic, right? When you look at the cycle between 2026 to 2030, whether the World Cup is in Saudi Arabia, Morocco, or whatever the fuck it is, it's going to be. But those 4 years with the new talent pool, that's where we're actually going to see if Mexico as a federation make the right move or they don't. So still to come, but for now, holy shit, dude, it's been a whirlwind. Like I said, I was like embarrassed the next day. I wasn't even pissed, dude. Like, sometimes where I'm like, fuck this. Like the times that we've lost against the US a couple of years ago in Nations League, and then we lost the Gold Cup final back to back, and I was like, I was just pissed. I'm like, we should win. We have a better team. Now I'm like, fuck, dude. Like I don't even give a fuck, dude. I'm gonna be Canadian. I'm gonna go to Canada. Fuck it.
Yeah, bro. And look,
Like, come
I
on.
feel you on that. We're not gonna drag this out too much further. I think yeah, some massive tests coming up.
Yep.
Mexico played better against Panama, but it's Panama. At the end of the day, if they'd
Yeah.
have kept it even, bro, it's crazy how I think the perception would have been so far and away different by even just making it a 2-1 loss
Yep.
or 2-0 loss.
But it's
I
the
just think that
3-0.
yeah, it's the
Yep.
3-0, and it's how all of the fighting kind of
Yep.
ensued. The Mexican fans at the stadium, like everything, bro. It
Yep.
was just a bad, very, very bad night
Yep.
if you are an L3 fan. So,
Yeah.
but with that said, I think no overreactions here. I think that there's still a lot to be played for if you're a Mexican fan.
Yep.
Coca had to go. We all agree with that.
Totally.
Once you
Yeah.
lose the locker room, it's over. It's GG's. You need to find another manager. But this
Yep.
is an opportunity, a massive opportunity for
Yep.
first Jimmy Lozano, and then from
Yep.
there, if for whatever reason Lozano doesn't work out, to find someone with his profile that can take a young team, build them up for 2.5 years, and get them ready for the biggest tournament of their lives. I think it's
100%.
going to be really interesting to see how it all unfolds. But
Yep.
we will see, bro.